break with Cory Wells. Stick around, folks. Heard It on the X. Hi, folks. Welcome back to Heard It on the X, the East Coast premier music talk show. We're talking with Cory Wells of Three Dog Night fame, and of course Buffalo's own Cory Wells. Cory, you left us off where you're playing. You're back in LA. You've done a stint. This is pre Three Dog Night. You're playing at a club. Brian Jones had sat in with you on harmonica. So take it from there, my friend.
Okay, and then we're trying to get the other guys, Mick Jagger and that, but Mick Jagger and both Keith Richards were both out of their minds drunk, so they never got on stage. But I mean, this was the kind of action. This was the stuff that was happening to us at the time. And then an actor, he was just a bouncer then, by the name of Don Stroud. I don't know if he had a lot of things that eventually he was an out of work actor also, but subbed as a bouncer for the Whiskey Go-Go. He talks Elmer Valentine into hearing us, and Elmer at the time was still looking for the clean-cut Johnny Rivers-looking kind of guy.
Right.
So he hadn't hired any long-hair guy, but we came in there and we played, and I sang, and he fell in love with us, and we got hired, and we stayed there a long time at the Whiskey Go-Go. We were the house band for months and months and months and months. And then,
and that was the dream gig. I mean, like you say, that was the gig. I mean, that was the center of the Strip. That was the way to go.
That was it. That was the place. But then again, it was the place to be. But then again, all those other bands like the Doors and the Byrds and all of it, they all made it. They all had hit records. They didn't need to work in that club anymore.
Right.
So and the other bands coming up behind us was like Frank Zappa, and those kind of guys that were still trying to do it on the Strip and whatever.
Did you have a record deal at this time? I mean, were you recording original stuff at that time?
Yeah. Well, once we finally got to the Whiskey, we started getting bites, and we were Valiant Records. We recorded a song there when they were behind the times and didn't understand what a hit record is. I kept telling them, I played them the Bird song and said, this is where music is. It's not these schmucky 50s ballads,
right.
What they wanted us to do. And so we had a bite there, and we were there for a while, and then we got on Warner Brothers, and they were clicking, and we did a thing called Glitter and Gold, and some other cover songs that we had done. And so, but it just wasn't happening for us. But I mean, but we were being known on the Strip, and we started getting to a point where we started doing private parties for movie stars. We did a couple of TV shows. We were on the Beverly Hillbillies. We were on Burke's Law. We were on. We did a movie with Paul Newman and Shelley Winters called Harper, and a bunch of other things. I can't remember them all. A lot of different TV shows and stuff at the time, and so we had a buzz going, and we did all these movie stars. Dean Martin, Peter Lawford. Janet Leigh, I mean, all these people that we went to their homes and played in their homes.
It's funny that you said that music had taken kind of a left turn there, and there were some studios that were lost. They didn't know. Some record labels that were just lost on what was becoming current. It's funny to think of things in that context.
Right. And the owner of the Valiant Records, Barry DeVorzon, who had a lot of hits, and he actually had Rhythm in the Rain by whoever, which was a bunch of people who actually worked in the office who sang on that thing and did that record, and they had a hit record with that. But it just wasn't. It didn't fit for us. And Warner MGM was not really connected. They just kind of go in and go record and then whatever. We did the first version, or one of the first versions of Hey Joe. There was another version out that was done by a group called The Leaves, but everybody knows Hey Joe most likely by Jimi Hendrix. Yeah. So, it was one of those kind of things. And then, anyway, we were doing a private party for Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor at the Whiskey, and in those days, the movie stars could rent out the club for a night, and all these celebrities would come in. Ben Gazzara and Connie Stevens and Sonny and Cher were there, and all these different actors, Jonathan Winters, all these people were at this party. And actually, it was a connection I would make years later, in maybe 10 or 15 years later, with Connie Stevens. So But at that time, Cher was the main thing, and she leans up on the bandstand. At that time, the bandstand was in a different place. It wasn't where it is now, or where it is where it was moved eventually. And she whispers something in my ear, which I can't say on the radio. And and she had mentioned that, came back and said, "How would you like to tour with us?" Well, I mean, it was like, I had to try to put up a front, like, "Oh, well, I have to ask my agent."
Yeah.
As I was.
But inside you're dying, and you're like, "Yeah."
Yeah. So we ended up going and doing the Sonny and Cher tour, and with all its things that came along. And one of the things was that my future partner, Danny, was also on that tour, and he was a single artist because he had a couple of regional hits at that time, and he was asked to do the tour. And
you're talking about Danny Hutton. That's who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about Danny Hutton from Three Dog Night, and we both were on that same tour. And one of the memories I have is they had one of those teardrop Rickenbacker teardrop guitars, beautiful white one. And the first day at rehearsal, somebody stole it on him, so he didn't have a guitar to play. Anyway, so he was borrowing guitars through the whole tour that we were on. Of course, we traveled by bus.
So that tour was like a more of a rock and roll review. There was two openers and a headliner. Is that how it was?
It was more than that. It was Artie Cornfield, who was in a group called the Changing Times. He ended up being the guy who put together Woodstock.
Okay.
He was the promoter of Woodstock, but at that time he was just a struggling musician. It was us, Danny, a few other people, I can't remember exactly who, and Sonny and Cher. And we traveled by bus, almost a school bus, and because rock and roll wasn't that sophisticated yet. And Sonny and Cher, of course, traveled by plane. They flew everywhere, and every so often they give us a little bit of gratitude when they come in and say hi to us on the bus. And so we did that for a long time, but I got to know Danny. We struck up a friendship, and we talked music and blah, blah, blah. Somewhere down the line, maybe he could do something for us.
Right.
And he said yes, he would. He would be a producer, because that's how he felt he was. He was more of a producer than an artist. And that he would produce, which he did, which he produced Hey Joe for us. And Hey Joe went nowhere.
And Danny was, but he worked for like Hanna-Barbera Records or something. I read somewhere.
Yes, he did.
And was that, when I think Hanna-Barbera, I think cartoons. Was he producing cartoon music or something?
Well, no, he wasn't producing anything. He was a stock boy. And he worked his way up to trying to write some songs for Hanna-Barbera for what their cartoon characters were. And they had a whole farm of characters at Hanna-Barbera at the time. They had zillions of characters, and so he was. And they actually even did a character of him in one of the cartoon shows. Yeah, I don't know if it was the Flintstones or somebody like that. But anyway, and so that was his connection in the record business. And then he got fired, or he quit, or something from there. And then our manager, because we were now on MGM. Our manager wanted to manage Danny and get him, so he got him a deal on MGM. And Danny started to. That was the deal. If he got him a record deal, he could manage him. And so Gene did. Gene got him the deal. But you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him to drink.
Right.